OpenAI just released a model that helped build the infrastructure that serves it. That sentence is not a metaphor. April 23rd, 2026, GPT 5.5 landed in ChatGPT and Codex. And the people who do not understand what actually changed in this release are already behind the colleagues who do. This is not an update. GPT 5.5 is the first fully retrained base model since GPT 4.5. Every version between them, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, was built on the same foundation. GPT 5.5 demolished that foundation and rebuilt from scratch. And the gap it opened over every other model is not marginal. This is where the professionals who leave right now make a decision they will feel in 3 months. This channel exists because mainstream tech coverage always shows up late with half the story. The people in this community read the system card before the press briefing ends and understand benchmark context before the hot takes start. You stay here because falling behind in this cycle is not an inconvenience. It is a compounding disadvantage. And right now, someone in your industry is already running GPT 5.5 on tasks you are still doing manually. GPT 5.5 does not just answer you faster. It understands what you are trying to do before you finish explaining it. OpenAI's own framing is deliberate. This model plans, uses tools, checks its own work, navigates ambiguity, and keeps moving until the task is done. You do not babysit it, you assign it. The difference between those two things is the difference between having an assistant and having a collaborator. And the professionals who grasp that distinction in this next section are the ones who will feel it in their output by next week. Here is where GPT 5.5 actually stands. Terminal Bench 2.0 at 82.7%. Claude Opus 4.7 at 69.4%. Gemini 3.1 Pro at 68.5%. GDP vol across 44 real occupations. 84.9% matches or beats human professionals. 40% fewer output tokens to finish the same Codex task as GPT 5.4. That last number is the one nobody is leading with, and it is the most important number in the release. GPT 5.5 is priced higher on the API, $5 per million input tokens, double GPT 5.4. But it uses 40% fewer tokens to complete the same work. The model that costs more actually costs less if you are running real production workloads. That math changes every enterprise procurement conversation happening right now. And the capability in GPT 5.5 that actually changes your daily work in ways you have not thought about yet comes in the next section. The architecture story is the part that most coverage is completely skipping. GPT 5.5 was co-designed with NVIDIA's GB200 and GB300 NVL72 systems at the hardware level. This is not OpenAI optimizing software to run on existing chips. This is OpenAI and NVIDIA designing the model and the serving infrastructure as a single integrated system. The result is that GPT 5.5 matches GPT-5. 4 per token latency in real-world serving while operating at a fundamentally higher level of intelligence. Bigger models are supposed to be slower. This one is not. And then OpenAI used Codex to analyze weeks of production traffic and rewrite the partitioning algorithms that serve GPT 5.5. The model helped design the system that delivers it. Token generation speed went up 20% as a result. Sit with that for a second. Because the consequence of what you just heard about self-optimizing infrastructure is something that nobody is talking about yet. And here is the thing nobody is saying about GPT 5.5. The context window is 1 million tokens in the API. GPT 5.4 hit 36.6% accuracy on the hardest long context retrieval test. GPT 5.5 hit 74.0% on that same test. That is not an incremental improvement. That is a doubling of reliable long context performance. Entire codebases, full document libraries, year-long conversation histories, GPT-5. 5 holds and reasons across all of it without losing the thread. Which means everything you understood about the practical limits of context windows in real production work just broke. Now the honest side by side. GPT 5.5 is the model that solves real problems at work. It leads agentic coding at 82.7% on Terminal Bench, 13 points ahead of Claude Opus 4.7, and 14 points ahead of Gemini 3.1 Pro. It matches or beats professionals across 44 occupations on GDP vol at 84.9%. On OS World Verified, the benchmark that measures real computer use operating browsers and desktop software natively, it scores 78.7%. Claude Opus 4.7 is the model that impresses people in demos but stalls on actual tasks when the job requires multi-step agentic execution across tools. Opus 4.7 leads GPT-5.5 on SWE Bench Pro, 64.3% to 58.6%, real GitHub issue resolution and real code bases, real advantages, but not the domains where most professionals spend most of their working hours in 2026. GPT 5.5 at medium effort scores the same as Claude Opus 4.7 at maximum effort, at 1/4 of the cost. And the professionals who skip this next part of the 5.5 breakdown are already setting up production systems that will fail in ways they will not see coming. I want to be completely honest with you about this upgrade. There is one number OpenAI did not lead with, and you need to know it. On the omniscience hallucination benchmark, GPT 5.5 hits 86%. The highest hallucination rate of any frontier model right now. Opus 4.7 sits at 36%, Gemini 3.1 Pro at 50%. GPT 5.5 is more confident and more accurate when it knows the answer, but it is also more willing to confabulate when it does not. For agentic workflows where the model grades its own work as it runs, a confidently wrong action is worse than a stop and ask. This does not change the verdict. It changes how you deploy GPT 5.5. Which means everything you thought you knew about trusting AI output autonomously just got more complicated. Here is the number that reframes the entire release. GPT 5.5 solved a 32-step corporate network simulation. That same task takes 20 expert hours for a human team to complete. The UK AI Safety Institute confirmed a 90.5% pass rate on expert-level cybersecurity tasks. OpenAI rated GPT 5.5 high, not critical, under its preparedness framework. What that means is GPT 5.5 crossed a threshold in autonomous task completion that regulators felt required new safeguards but not restricted deployment. It is capable enough to operate in the same problem space as domain experts. It does not sleep. It does not bill by the hour. It does not need a project manager to keep it on track. GPT 5.5 is the upgrade that professional users and enterprise teams should care about in 2026. Not because it wins every benchmark. It does not. But it leads on planning, execution, computer use, and long-horizon autonomous work. The exact categories where AI stops being a tool you open and starts being infrastructure that runs your workflow without you managing every step. That is not a benchmark category. That is a structural shift in what you can delegate starting this week. There is one question this video deliberately left open, and it is the one you actually need answered before GPT 5.5 changes how your work gets done. The API is not live yet. ChatGPT and Codex access is live now. But how do you wire GPT 5.5 into your existing tools, your Slack, your Codebase, your internal document stack, your agent workflows, from zero prior experience? That integration gap is exactly where most professionals will get stuck. And the step-by-step build from scratch, covering every connection decision that determines whether GPT 5.5 runs autonomously in your workflow, or just sits there answering questions like the old version did, is all ready.